Okay, so I've got 3 questions in here. Obviously, you may want more than that. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it as it is for right now because I want to show you some of the settings that we deal with when we're looking at a quiz. So I'm going to go up here to the gear and click my settings gear. And first of all, restrict to users in Bexar County School System, yes. Oh, and one thing that we forgot to do, or I forgot to do, let me click save really quickly. Sorry about this. So we don't have a place for them to put their name. Now, we can have it automatically collect their email addresses, which I highly recommend, and actually you should do it in order for them to receive their feedback. But we need to have a place for them to put their name. So I'm going to add a question here, and you notice that it didn't go where I wanted it to go. But remember, we can drag and drop. So I'm going to get my 4-way arrow right over these 2 rows of dots, and I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to drag. Now, for the younger students, being able for them to type their first and last name, that might be a little bit difficult. So my suggestion would be to make a drop-down list. And so that way students just have to choose their name. Make that required. As far as answer key, obviously there's no correct answer for this. I'm going to make this one 0 points. Now I'm going to click on my gear. Definitely restrict to Bexar County students. Collect their email addresses. Yes, we definitely want to do that. So quizzes, we want to leave this, make this a quiz. Now this is where if you had started a Google form and you wanted to then turn it into a quiz, this is where you would go to actually make it a quiz. So normally this toggle bar would be off, and so to turn it into a quiz, you just click make this a quiz after you go into this gear, and it turns the whole thing into a quiz. And that's where you can then go in and set up your correct and incorrect answers, your feedback, and your point values for each individual question. Now, here is a choice that you have here. Release the grade immediately after each submission or later after manual review, and it turns on the email collection, which we actually already have turned on. So I would say later after manual review. And the reason why is that if you have any open-ended questions, you're going to have to manually review that and assign the point values before you release this to them. And we're going to take a look and see what that looks like on the student side. Now, what do you want them to see when they receive their information about how they did? Do you want them to see their missed questions? I personally would, because I want them to be able to realize what they got incorrect. I don't want them to see the correct answers. I want them to have to figure out what it was that the correct answer should have been, and hopefully they'll use the remediation materials that I included if they missed that answer. And I definitely want them to be able to see those point values. So this is the way I'm going to set up this particular quiz, and then I'm going to click Save. And so now if we click on our eyeball to take a look at what it would look like from the student perspective, it tells us that it's collecting our email addresses. I can then choose who I am to take the quiz, and then I can go ahead and answer these questions. So I'm going to actually switch to an account real quick, and then we're going to take a look at what this would look like if I'm a student and then grading it as the teacher. Okay, so I am now playing as a student, and I'm going to choose Mickey Mouse and click submit to submit it. Now you notice the way that I have it set up now, it says your response has been recorded. I can go ahead and submit another response. I'm also going to show you what this looks like if you have it set up so they can see their responses immediately. So I'm going to go back to my teacher quiz, the teacher side at least. I'm going to click the gear and I'm going to go to quizzes. And right now I'm going to set it to immediately after each submission, and I'm going to click save. So now I'm going to come back here and submit another response. This time I'll be Donald Duck. And you'll notice that the difference in this time is I can view my score. So I'm going to go ahead and click View Score. And so it shows me that I got 10 out of 30 points total, and that I got that one correct. I got my feedback, great job. I got this one incorrect, so here's my feedback. Please try again. You can tell the students to watch the video. And that I got this one actually incorrect because this is an open-ended response, and remember that really this is something that we should actually grade on our side. So now let's take a look at the teacher side of what this would look like. So it shows that I have 2 different responses. Now, one thing that I do love about Google Quizzes using forms is that it gives me a lot of different information about how my class is doing overall, and also how they are able to answer questions individually. So for example, this one tells me that 50% of my students who've answered this got it right and got it wrong, and same with this one, and it gives me my answer responses down here. So I get kind of an overview. It also tells me if scores have been released or not for particular students. And I can even go in and look at the individual questions. So how did my students respond to the individual questions? If I realize that I put an incorrect answer for the answer response, then this is my opportunity to fix that. So I can even go in and mark that as incorrect instead of correct. And so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at this one. And this was the third question that was in the quiz itself. So when we're looking at this, this is looking at your questions that you have in the actual form. So I have one ungraded response, and actually these are both correct. It just depends on if you're being formal or informal in French. So I can go ahead and say that's correct, and that's correct. Edits are pending, so you be sure and click Save. I can also see individual responses. So I can see, okay, I want to see what G Suite Diva said as Mickey Mouse. So these were those responses. And then using the drop down, I can go, and obviously their email addresses would be different, but this is Donald Duck. These were Donald Duck's responses. So you can look at it this way too. I'm also going to show you in a different video how to look at it through a spreadsheet as well. So now what I can do, you'll notice that it says release score, updates made after release. So for this was the second one, Donald Duck was. This is where we set it up where they could see their score immediately. But remember, I had to go back and hand grade that one question. Well, I want Donald to know what his real score is. And also I need for Mickey Mouse, which is what I was when I took it the first time, to know what Mickey Mouse's score actually is, because Mickey has no clue how many he got right or he got wrong. So when you click release score, it's going to give you the option of sending the scores not just to that one student, but you can send it to all students. If you've already graded one student's quiz and you've already sent the response to that student, then you can just simply uncheck that box for that student. But I'm going to send emails in release. And now I'm going to go back to that other account, the G Suite Diva account that I used here, because I want you to see what those emails look like. And you'll notice that I have two different scores in here. Remember, I took it as Mickey Mouse and also took it as Donald Duck. So it says here your score has been released for French quiz, and it's, so it's not going to show me everything for the quiz right here. So let's go back to the other email, and you'll see it's the same thing for this one. So I got the same score for those two different profiles that I was using, but when I click view, it's actually going to go back and show me what I got correct, what I got incorrect. Here's my remediation, so I can still take it again after I watch the video. And then it also will show me to what I got correct or incorrect down here at the bottom. So even though there's an X here, you notice there's a green check mark. So I did get this correct. It's just initially it had been marked as incorrect. So if I go back to the prior one, which is this one, and click view, again, I'm seeing similar things. And again, even though this is red, remember it initially will mark it as incorrect, but all you do is you go in and you mark it as correct and then send that response out to the student so they can see that. So now I'm going to get rid of that and go back to what we are looking at it as a teacher.